Welcome to Christ Culture, the podcast. I'm your co-host, Kiana.
I'm Calvin.
And we have a very powerful episode for you guys today. We're doing a Power of series. Today's episode is the power of being seen.
Yeah.
I think it goes hand in hand with today's culture with social media, being seen, going viral. We talk about some practicals.
Yeah, like, how to react when you feel like you're not being seen enough.
Yeah. And then also where to get your validation when you feel like you are being unseen.
Yeah. And then some other stuff like maybe you're being seen too soon. Maybe it's not time yet.
You got to mature a little bit.
Absolutely. Go through that process.
Yeah. It's a juicy one. So tune in.
Here we go.
Hello.
I got this jacket on today that y'all picked up.
I know. I was just about to shout it out. We got you that for the blog that it's actually
Puff Daddy jacket that I got on.
Puff Daddy.
Yeah, I like it though.
I like it too. Nice. It matches the sweats.
Yeah,
it's different from your normal like hoodie.
Yeah,
set.
That's true.
Which is nice. There's still a hood on it. There's just no sleeves.
I thought about doing the whole episode in a hood, but I was like, maybe I shouldn't.
You know what would be kind of dope though?
What?
If you still had the matching hoodie with the matching vest.
Yeah, I wasn't about to sit here and sweat.
Maybe if we did an outside episode.
Maybe.
But that's never going to happen until the spring.
Maybe.
Midsummer. Mid-spring.
We'll see.
Late spring.
We were talking about during the, were they there that night? We were talking about the 5K.
5K run?
Yeah. We were talking about a CCP 5K.
Let's, Bree said, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Iman and Tay
what
were
do y'all think this is a cop out? Like, no, CCP, we're all doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing no bike. I'm not. See.
It would be dope though to be able to invite our people out for a little 5K. How long is 5K? It's like 3 miles, right?
I'm gonna walk most of it, but I'm gonna be there.
What was that? 3.2 miles.
3.2?
Yeah. That's not bad. You can run 3.2 miles.
I don't know how long that would take me. I don't know what's your mile. You've been running. What's your mile time right now?
I don't know. I haven't been paying attention.
You don't time yourself or anything?
No, I do time. So I do about a 10-minute run right now, and it comes out to about a little over a mile, I think.
Oh, work.
Yeah.
Wow, you run the entire time.
Yeah.
Work.
Yeah.
I feel like my mile time, like I haven't ran a mile because I don't do high intensity cardio. I do low intensity.
Yeah.
But I feel like my mile, if I'm running, is like 15 minutes.
Okay.
I walked a mile the other day and it was 30 minutes. But that's walking.
Yeah.
So maybe cut that in half.
Yeah. I think my mile walking is like 20, little over 20, maybe 22-ish. Because I just walk slow.
Wait, your mile walk is 22 minutes?
Yeah.
That's a brisk walk.
No, it's not. I be strolling. I just be strolling along. That is not fast.
No.
For a mile?
Okay, so I also don't run or walk outside. Well, I do walk outside, but not for like exercise.
Okay.
If I'm exercising and walking, it's on the treadmill.
Okay, that's different.
So at least 3 miles per hour takes me 30 minutes to do a mile.
Yeah, I can see that.
But 22, like that's a nice little tempo there. So if you're saying 22 minutes, you'd be like the power walkers.
No, I don't be doing that.
Hip switchers?
I be strolling out there, bro. I be strolling. I actually be feeling like I'm walking slow because all the people, the older people,
they be
passing me by.
Yep.
Yeah, I went for a walk this morning and this older lady, she came by with her little 2.5 pound weights.
Yes, she did.
She was working it. And she came by me and I
swishers.
was like, dang, am I walking that slow?
She said, let me get around you because you're going too slow. You're in the slow lane.
Yeah. Then they do the little look over their shoulder at you.
Right.
I get it.
Why are you judging me?
Yeah.
Get my walk on.
What's going on this week?
Let's see. Like this past week or coming up?
This past week.
This week was good. It's definitely better than my week before. I think like mentally. I feel like have you ever had a moment where you just were like, you wake up and you realize that you were sleeping? Like, I feel like, I guess just going into the new year, it wasn't necessarily sleep, but I was on this like autopilot where I'm like doing all the motions, but like not really there all the way.
Yeah.
As much as I wanted to be, I just wasn't. waking up. And
Yeah.
then there was some point in this week where I was just like, okay, let's actually do it.
Okay.
You know? So I kind of had that realization this week, which is actually really cool.
Yeah.
Because now I'm ready. I'm ready to go now. Like 2023 doesn't start until February for me.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes.
So you're in SpongeBob mode now. I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, this week was tough. I started not feeling well like Tuesday morning, really, after I went for my run. And it just lasted from like Tuesday almost to like Friday. I was just so messed up. And I was in that E group, as you know. And yeah, so like yesterday, I would say was the first day that I kind of felt a little bit better. And then this morning's pretty decent. So
Yeah.
but we did our auditions yesterday. Shout out Julian, my director of photography for my film.
Come on.
We did our auditions yesterday. They went really well.
Yes.
We got some good actors. So
could you tell us a little bit about the plot, like a trailer, not?
yeah, so we're doing this short film, and then it has a plot, and then the plot things happen, and then after things happen, the movie ends.
See, I was with you for a second, and I was like, "What? Okay, wow,
No,
nice. That sounds interesting,
right? No,
Yeah.
it's a faith-based film. It's called Patient Zero. It is a conglomerate of dreams that me and my mother had over the course of like 3 or 4 years. Her and I would share our dreams with each other, and I love to write. So I would write down the little ideas from it, and over the course of, I'd say, about 5 years, I put them all into one script. So it's like
Wow.
Mishmash of dreams, so to speak.
Wow.
But yeah, it's about this older woman named Lizzie Mae, and she is steadfast in her faith, and she is juxtaposed to a therapist who is, he's one of those people who are very logical thinkers, science-based. So it's kind of the faith versus science thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got some people yesterday. Our production is kind of planned out, and we're going to start shooting in March. So
Wow.
yeah.
See, I don't really know how movies work.
Okay.
So, like you say, you're starting in March. When do you project it to be finished? Like, does it take months?
So there's pre-production, production, post-production. So we're actually filming throughout the month of March to get all the footage. Then the long part starts, which is the editing and all that stuff. But the way we do it, because we're doing a short film, we're going to run it in the circuit. So we're going to put it in like film festivals, contests. So usually you don't do a public release until after it's going through all that stuff.
Oh, that's
because
cool.
you don't want it, you don't want it out there floating around.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll probably put it in the circuit for a while just to see what it does, and then if I just had to like take a guess, it would be late this year, early next year before it comes out for just people to see in general.
But like for you to submit to festivals, what is that, like over the summer or something?
Yeah. So I would say if we finish shooting by the end of March, Julian probably like 2 months to finish getting it edited how we want it, and yeah, so summertime it'll be tip top, ready to go.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
As an outsider, you think that filming takes the longest?
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't expect that editing takes the longest.
And do you know you don't actually film in order?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So you do it, you kind of do it by location. For example, say I had different scenes in one location. I would film all the scenes in that location while I'm there.
Wow.
So I wouldn't go and then come back and then go. That costs a lot of money to do that.
Yeah. That gives me a lot of perspective and like respect towards actors and actresses, because like you have to be able to move throughout the plot to bring different emotions of like,
absolutely,
this person backstabbed me and now I have to act like I didn't even know about it. And like, like you have to turn on those emotions. So that's actually
that's why they get paid the big bucks.
Yeah, exactly.
But like if you think about it, for example, let's say you have an actor who comes in and you want him to have a scruffy beard for like the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
He's going to grow that out coming into the movie. So you'll start filming all those scenes with his beard and then cut his beard off and go back to the beginning. So he has to jump in the middle of the film from day one,
knowing what he already knows, and then go to the beginning when he doesn't know anything. Wow.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
that's exciting. Yeah. Congrats. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do like a private premiere for the CCP group.
Of course.
So maybe you guys can.
Of course.
Oh, you expected that? Oh, okay.
That's a given.
All right.
We get VIP access.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Special premiere seating, everything.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you mean? What do you mean? You thought about it? Like,
we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Must see.
Must See Entertainment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
go
what I'm
follow
saying.
Must See Entertainment on YouTube and Instagram. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Word.
Go follow Holy Sweat as well. Another shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Go follow Christ Culture, the podcast, on all platforms.
Mega shameless plug.
Mega.
Yeah. So let's talk about our topic today.
The power of
being seen.
Being seen.
I feel like this is a very powerful topic.
Yeah, it is.
Especially in the climate of today's world where social media is at its highest. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like a lot of people could be blessed by this message because
absolutely
there's a lot of truth in it that we don't really want to hear. And there's also a lot of truth in it that we need to digest for our own mental. So
absolutely.
I'm actually really excited to talk about this one today.
Cool. Yeah, I took some good notes yesterday. I called on a few people to glean a little wisdom just to see what they thought about the topic. And did some studying in the Bible. So
there you go.
We're ready to go.
Let's get it.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
All right. Let's start very simple. What does it mean to you to be seen?
I looked it up.
Okay. I did too.
Be seen. One thing that I found very interesting about the definition was that it described being seen as to discern visually. And I love that they use the word discern because we use that word in Christian culture as well. Absolutely. Just understanding where wisdom comes from. So I actually wrote down a few definitions of seen. Obviously, it's a past tense version of see. But a few definitions is to perceive with the eyes, to become aware / to understand, to observe without being able to affect, like to see things happen and not be able to do anything about it.
Yeah. And
then also to spectate, to kind of just watch.
Yeah.
So obviously they're all visible adjectives, I guess. But yeah, what really caught my eye, pun intended, was that it said visibly discern. So then I said, wow, I know what discern means, but let me look up that definition too. So discern. In Latin words, dis means apart, and then cernere means to separate, apart, which means to discern something means that you are able to distinguish the difference between things. That might be difficult for others to also see, but maybe more different. It gets over. There's subject matters that people usually overlook.
Yeah.
And then you're able to see, like, find the wisdom in that. So I think it's very interesting to see this definition because it can be used in so many different ways. And it also can have a lot of different meanings, not just by Webster's dictionary, but also like how we perceive things, literally how we perceive and take things in and understand things to be. So yeah, I'm just going to start with that.
Okay. So I love that definition for seen. I was also looking up the definition for seen. I looked up the biblical meaning of the word seen. So like when you get into the Greek and the Hebrew of it, what it means biblically a lot of the times. And literally what it means is to be known. So we're also kind of talking about the power of being known. Seen and known kind of go hand in hand in the Bible anyway. So what does it mean to actually know somebody? So you're seeing them, but do you know them? And then when I got into the definition of the word know, it kind of comes back to what you were just talking about, and it said observation. So how do you then get into observing a person? Because observing a person it's active, but it's not interfering, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're just taking in the information. So kind of what I was thinking about is like, for example, you ever watch like a nature documentary and they're spitting out weird facts about animals and you like, who took the time to sit there and figure that out? They're like, oh, the ancient spider species can jump 3 centimeters when there's a full moon outside. And you're just like who figured that out?
Yeah.
So somebody had to actually sit there and observe that creature long enough to learn that. But they also have to not interfere to the standpoint of, if they did too much and they messed up the creature's environment, then they would have never saw that happen.
Right.
So what does it mean for us to actually, when it comes to being seen, observing one another without interfering with one another?
I think it's powerful on two different stances, because even when I was thinking about the power of being seen, it could be external and it's also internal. So like how I'm seeing other people, and then also how other people are seeing me, and then also how I'm seeing myself and how I'm seeing my situations and how I'm understanding what's happening in my life.
Yeah.
So there again comes that discernment, that understanding, and that wisdom to distinguish what you're taking away from it. You know, like I like how even like how you were talking about the animals, because I sit there and I'm like, who has the time to sit here and sit in a bush and film from like 800 meters away and just watch these
For
animals for
hours.
hours, and like literally through night and day? I'm like, do they get tired? Does somebody bring them lunch?
Yeah.
You know, but like, and then for them to come to conclusions is that they sit and they study and they understand, and they almost create narratives for them,
Yeah.
to really come to the entire essence of them, to understand their way of life, their natural state of like, their circulation of life, you know? So when it comes to us even seeing internally versus externally what's happening in our lives, we have to understand what patterns are. We have to see what different aspects that change the courses of our actions or decisions, or even how we're portraying it out to the world.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why I was saying, like, it's such a big thing with social media, because that's the first thing I thought of when it was, well, maybe not the first thing, but a lot of people, when they're like, oh, I feel seen, I feel understood. That's what
Yeah.
that means. I feel validated. I feel like you understand me. When people say I feel seen. And then also where the mind goes to is like, for you to feel seen is, like you said, to be known. And I feel like in our culture today, for them to be known, the first thing that comes to mind would be maybe like, I want to be famous. I feel like I need to be TikTok famous, or whatever it is. Like, I need to be seen on social media to have my value validated. And that's not always true. I think it's kind of the opposite. You know, like, we don't actually need to be seen by millions of people to feel like, oh, what I'm saying or what I'm feeling has value,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, we could like stay there for a minute.
Yeah, that it's so crazy that you're talking about that, because one of the other kind of definitions was talking about the fact that it just says feeling seen is a state in which part of our identity, emotions, or needs are fully recognized through various means.
Yeah.
So it's not just them literally seeing you or seeing your outward portrayal of your emotions, but it's literally, do they know you enough? Can they discern enough? Have they observed enough to see the state that you're in?
Yeah.
You can see me and be totally oblivious to
Yeah.
the state that I am in. I could be going through turmoil on the inside, but unless you actually know me or observe me, you would never know that.
Yeah.
So again, that goes back to just taking that time. And the other thing I was thinking about, kind of sticking with our little animal analogy, you know, we love an analogy.
Yeah.
I was thinking about just observing, and with some of those animals, for example, bears, when you observe bears, that's a dangerous situation because a bear could tear you up.
Yeah.
So you have to stay at a certain distance from a
Right.
bear. You have to stay back. And it just made me think that sometimes to truly observe someone or something that you care about, you may have to take a little risk. You may have to put yourself in a bit of a dangerous situation. Understanding though that you're doing it for the reason of trying to understand and know them better to help them. Because without that observation, then they couldn't, for example, set aside land for certain bear species who are going extinct.
Yeah.
Without spending that time close to the bears.
Ooh.
Yeah. So sometimes if you truly care about somebody who is going through something or in a bad situation, or they may be doing bad things, you may have to get close enough to see them, but also far enough away that you're not jeopardizing your own self.
Yeah.
And that can be kind of a fine line to walk, right?
Yeah. I would say even too, like even in the definition where it said to visibly see without having effect, affect, AFFECT.
Yes.
Meaning like, even if I'm trying to get to know somebody, like say it's your best friend and you know them so well that you can see past their smile, right?
Yeah.
As a friend, I need to also see from a distance that I'm not affecting them, because I can't step in. I can't always help change somebody. you also need to see them like for their truest natural state, because they have issues that they need to work on their own. Like, you can't always manipulate somebody's issues to help them. You have to let them go through it on their own. And that's sometimes the part that hurts the most, because you're like, I just want to help you. And
especially if they're going through something you've been through before. Yeah.
Exactly. So then also having that discernment to be like, okay, I know that you're going through this. I'm still going to be, I can see you. I'm at arm's reach, but I can't necessarily help you all the way through this.
Yeah.
Like, say, okay, our animal analogy, when they're filming cheetahs eating deer, what are they, gazelles or something?
Yeah.
You feel for the gazelle every
Yeah.
time you watch it, and you're like, I saw him over there. I'm filming him over there, like preying on you. But I can't step in because, one, that puts me in danger.
Yeah.
But then also, two, that's his dinner. Like,
Yep.
that's just the circle of life.
Exactly.
He has to figure that out. You also have to maybe learn how to hide better. I don't know.
Absolutely.
You know? So that also comes with being seen, where, or even just understanding, where there's not just, oh, I understand you 100%. It's just positive.
Yeah.
You know, there are going to be certain things that you can't change.
Yep.
And that's part of actually seeing and understanding
Yeah.
and observing.
Yeah.
You know?
There's kind of 3 different parts to knowing somebody. Number 1 was the observance, which we kind of talked about. The other part to that was another way that you can know somebody is through inquiry, is what it said. So sometimes to know an individual, you literally just have to ask.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I am learning so much in life that there are so many things in this world you can get, whether it's information, money, resources, whatever it is, by just asking for it.
Yeah.
And it's such a powerful lesson, because I think some of us are maybe afraid to ask for certain things because of fear of rejection or fear of what that person may think because you're asking for something. But I think especially when it comes to trying to truly know an individual, one of the best ways to do it is just ask them. And a lot of individuals actually like that when someone is interested enough to ask about them, and they'll divulge that information willingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all are as humans.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I just want somebody to ask me how I'm doing.
Right.
And then they ask you how you're doing, and you just like break down and crying. It's like, why did you ask me how? That's like the worst question to ask somebody who's going through
especially when you're sincere.
Right. It's like, what's wrong? But no, yeah. It has to get a little ugly for it to get pretty, you know, to be seen and understood. Especially because we all wear these masks.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wears a mask. And that's something that I think isn't talked about a lot, where we feel like, oh, everybody puts their best foot forward. That's just genuinely how their life is. When in reality, if we walked around knowing that everybody's wearing some type of facade over their face, how would that change our relationship with people?
Wow.
You know?
Everybody's always trying to show up as their best self to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if everybody has this one thing in common, which is vulnerability and lack of perception, I guess.
Yeah.
Why do we all feel like we need to show up at 100% all the time?
I don't know what that is. And I hate to say it, but I think going back to what we were talking about earlier, I think social media plays a huge role in that.
I don't know if we had this problem in the 90s.
I
or
was
the 80s.
I was young, but I can't imagine it was this bad.
You know?
Because like when you get on social media, you're literally just looking at everybody's best all the time. That's all you're seeing. And it just creates an environment where you're like, I can't post anything less than my best. I'm going to be different. I'm going to stand out. It's not going to be good. I'm not going to get likes. I'm not going to get a following, whatever the case is. So you're like, no, I need to go in the bathroom, get the lighting right, get this selfie perfect so that I can be a part of that group. Yeah.
I will say though, as much as I hate social media, it's a love-hate relationship. Like as I hate it for that reason right there, where you feel like you have to uphold to this standard that's actually unattainable. But then I also love it because it is such a tool and a resource for growing any type of resource or business. Even.
Absolutely.
You know, like it's such a love-hate relationship that I have. But what I do say that I enjoy about it now, especially TikTok. TikTok is actually a great platform because it's taking that perfectionism out of what Instagram is based off of, and more people are able to show up as themselves, as everyday people, and be vulnerable, and that's actually what gets more presentation, I guess I would say. Now there is a catch-22 because now that it's more of a thing, or more trending, I should say, to be more authentic and vulnerable.
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost just as bad because now people are like, I have to show up vulnerable now.
Yeah.
So
It's like the opposite end of the spectrum.
you know what I mean? Where it's like,
yeah.
what could I do that's vulnerable that people relate to so that I could go viral?
Yeah.
I hate that because where TikTok is very authentic in the sense that people are just, anybody can pop off. It's also based heavily on your conversion rates and like your views and how many likes you have. Like it's very visible right there. And these numbers, I don't even know if it's rigged because who knows that many people and how are they seeing your videos, you know? But again, it's such a powerful tool because you are being exposed to people in their bare state and you can relate to. And like I've seen a lot of TikToks where I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I feel seen, and that actually impacted me and encouraged me today. You know, that's the powerful thing about social media.
Yeah.
However, on the other side of the spectrum too, it's like I saw somebody that's vulnerable, and do I need to do that now?
Right.
Because my views only have like 200, and you know, like where are we in a day where we feel like 200 is a little bit?
Yeah. And not only that, but if you see somebody being vulnerable, let's say about a specific topic, and you feel a different way about it, but they got 100,000 likes,
Yeah.
you're almost like, well, I can't say what I feel about that because look how many likes they got on that. You know what I mean? So it almost like tempers your response to certain things, and it stops you from being fully yourself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a down draw of it too.
I will say, because in the state of being oversaturated, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the things that you're producing value for. It's like, say you're in a business, or like even for our podcast, it's like, oh, somebody's already done this before, I can't do it. Don't let that stop you, because you go to the grocery store, right? And you need bread.
Yep.
Okay. There's a whole aisle of bread.
100% whole wheat potato bread.
Potato bread is good. I thought you were gonna say
You don't like potato bread?
I thought you were gonna say white bread.
No.
White bread is not good.
Whole grain
It's very
potato
processed.
bread.
There's a whole aisle of bread.
Yep.
Do you think those bread manufacturing companies were like, dang, somebody already made bread, I can't do it?
No.
Clearly not.
Nope.
Clearly not. So it was like, what is stopping you? Even if it is oversaturated, the difference is that God has put people in your corner, people in your community, people in your close vicinity that you can impact more than this mega influencer who has millions of likes. So that brings me to the topic of going viral, virality versus what was the word I was gonna say? Virality compared to intimacy. That's it.
Okay.
Because I could go viral in a second and I touch a bunch of people, but usually with that comes your 15 seconds of fame, and then you're back to where you started. So what matters? I forgot about you. Nobody remembers what you did.
Yeah.
You went viral. Cool. You got all these followers. Now what? What do you do with that?
Yeah.
Compared to having that intimacy where maybe I'm treating everybody like, even if I do have only 10 people seeing my things, and I'm like, wow, there's 10 human beings.
Yeah.
Let me sew into them and actually see what they're going through so that I could help them.
Yeah.
Because you can't help a million people. You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but there's a magic in being intimate with a smaller group.
That's so crazy. Yeah. It just made me think of something that I heard Tim Ross talking about on one of his last episodes, because a lot of times people can compromise themselves to get that initial big burst. They just want that big following right away, and they do anything to get it.
Sell their soul.
And Tim was comparing that to the body of Christ, and he was saying that sometimes individuals who do bad things can get a big following, or they can get a big status in the beginning. And he was likening it to, for example, if you break a bone in the body, so for example, the body of Christ, if you break a bone in the body, it's immediately going to swell. So that's that big explosion.
Yeah.
Oh, they got a bunch of followers. A bunch of people are talking about them. They're putting out videos. That's that swelling in the body, as compared to going to the gym every single day and working on that, that one little muscle and watching it grow a little bit at a time. So the swelling from something that was twisted or broken or wrong, it still swells. It still gets bigger, but that's not a real muscle.
It doesn't last.
Exactly. You're going to get the calloused bone and all that nasty stuff. But yeah, he was talking about that. And that just made me think about what you were saying. not compromising yourself to get that and
Yeah.
being more intimate. And I was telling one of the crew members the other day, I was like, I love what we're doing because it's organic.
Yeah.
We're watching our followers go up little by little. We don't pay for advertising, or, you know, we're not out here doing anything against what we want to do.
Right.
Just chasing followers, which is beautiful to watch, you know. So we celebrate that little number goes up one notch, and we're like,
we got 5 new subscribers. Woo! You know,
and it's just amazing to us.
Yeah.
So I love the organic nature of what we're doing.
Yeah. I think that's a lost appreciation in today. Can we talk about how you can get lost in those numbers?
Yep.
Let's see. Okay. So have you ever had anything go viral?
Not really.
Not really.
No.
Okay. I've had a video or two go viral, and to see those numbers, I can see the other side of it where I'm like, wow, that did feel really good.
Yeah.
You know, and that it almost becomes like an idol or a drug.
Okay.
Because then you're like, wow, I did so well on this thing. Let me just keep doing that. And then you start to feel like you're chasing this audience because of that one thing that went viral. And usually it's the things that you don't plan.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm making hours of content with this nice camera and all these things. And then that went viral that I just shot in my car for no reason.
Wow.
You know, so it's the little things. So then you're like, oh, well, maybe I should start doing less because that's what people like.
Yeah.
And so you start to make content based off of what your audience likes rather than what you value and what your morals are. And then once you start to chase that, eventually, say if you do keep going viral or people are responding to that and they're engaging with that, you'll get so lost going down that trend because now you're compromising yourself. You're compromising what you believe in for the sake of these numbers.
All to be seen
And
at this point.
And I don't even know if that's being seen. You're being looked at. You're just being looked at because they don't know you. They don't know who you are as a core because you haven't even presented your real self to them.
Yep.
And then what happens if you start to see your value or your worth in these numbers and in these strangers who have no idea who you are? And that it tires you out. You get burnt out. I have a lot of people who I've seen in my life reach that point, and because I know them, I've seen them hit a plateau or they get depressed or they just completely feel lost because they're like, I have this success online. I have this following, but at the end of the day, or even at the beginning of the day, I just feel so confused.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what if you started talking about things that you care about, not just for the sake of what you're chasing, this audience that they are asking of you? And well, then I'll lose my followers. Then what happens? So what?
Yeah.
So what if you lose your followers?
Are you doing it for the followers?
Right.
Or?
And I'm like, what do followers have to do with anything? You know, if followers were linked to monetary value, like these are your dollar signs, this is your paycheck, then maybe, because that's how you're going to support your life, you know? But if it's just for the sake of having a number of followers to show your credentials, what does that mean if you're depressed?
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You know, and who you are.
Yeah, that idea of chasing resonates with me.
Ugh.
When you see something and you start chasing it. It made me think of one of my pet peeves. That's when somebody, like, you ever been in class and somebody cracks a joke and everybody laughs and it's hilarious, and then the person keeps trying to say more jokes because they want the laughs.
Yes.
And you're just like, okay, we get it now.
Yeah.
And I just think about that. I'm like, after a while, it just becomes annoying. Like, let that stand alone.
Yeah.
I hate when there's a great movie and then they keep trying to make more. Like 18 of them.
The only one that stood strong was Fast and Furious until the last two.
I was going to say the last one I didn't like.
After Paul Walker died, they could have stopped.
Yeah.
They actually could have stopped, but they kept going.
That
was the only sequel series that I liked.
Right. Which is why I love Denzel, because Denzel never really did sequels. He did one sequel with The Equalizer, but yeah, it's a pet peeve of mine. So don't chase is what we're saying.
Yeah. Don't chase.
Yeah. I want to talk about another aspect of this.
Okay.
So being seen, just kind of staying with the social media kind of vibe of this whole thing. Sometimes people are seen too soon.
Ooh.
Speak to that.
Oh, you're just going to throw the ball? Okay.
That's what you usually do to me. So
okay. Topic, go. Yeah. Sometimes people are wait, what?
Seen
Seen too seen.
seen too soon.
Seen too soon. Yes. And sometimes they even force it to be seen when they feel like they're ready, but they're actually not ready enough.
Yeah.
And what happens is they don't have the maturity of when they should have been able to be seen, to handle what they're getting right now.
Yep.
So that's, I think, the difference between gradual growth and organic growth.
Yeah.
Just being like, I am pursuing my purpose first, and anything after that is an after effect. Anything after that is the fruit. Anything after that is what my blessing will bring to me.
Yeah.
Not even it being material things. The material things may never come.
Yeah.
The quantity may never come, but at least you're touching people's lives. But if you're being seen too soon, you're in the wrong mentality. And that's when people crash. That's when people get burnt out, because they're not chasing their purpose first. They're chasing the fruit first.
Yeah.
And you can't get to fruit without being disciplined, being humbled, and all these things that you didn't even ask for.
Yep.
Because when nobody talks about it, but when you have that gradual growth, when you're like, okay, I'm just going to stay true to my purpose and my calling. There's a humble backhanded slap that comes with that. And you have to be humble enough to receive that, to say like, okay, it's maturing me, it's growing me, and it's refining me to be the person that God is calling me to be, so that I can receive those gifts that he's giving me, because I'm being obedient now.
Yep.
So yeah, it's like, if a lot of people don't want to be humble at first because they want that validation of, oh, I got all these numbers, I have all these views, I must be popular, I must be the cool person, whatever it is. And that's not the case.
Yep.
That's not the case. You're not ready for it. Like, if I was like, dang, I want to win the lottery. What is it now? Like 516 million or something?
No idea.
I don't even know.
I'm still not on social. So
I can't even count that
anything.
high. I don't even follow the lottery. People are just like, are you going to play the lottery? I was like, what? I don't gamble. Two, is it real? I don't know. But say I wanted to win the lottery.
Yep.
Right? And I put my first lottery ticket in, and I won off my first ticket. And I win this millions of dollars. My mindset is not going to be ready to receive that as much as I think, because if I win it right now, then I'm like, oh, that was so easy. I'm going to spend it on this, and I'm going to get a car, I'm going to get a mansion, I'm going to get all these shoes, I'm going to pay all that stuff. And your money's going to deplete like that.
Yep.
Because you weren't even ready to game plan what you were going to do with that money. You weren't even ready to see all the opportunities that you could bless other people with, because you're like, oh, I won this money. This is my money. I'm not going to share it. Rather than, I'm like, okay, I want to win the lottery. I'm going week after week. I'm being consistent. I'm being humbled, because they might pull tickets and I might lose something, or like, money's going down the drain, and I'm like, okay, well, I still have this faith that I could win it.
Yep.
Then that's going to build something in me, a resilience to keep moving forward. And then by the time they pull that winning ticket, even if I don't win that ticket, I'll say, well, looking back, it's taught me so much patience.
Yeah.
It's taught me so much grounding that I needed to get to this point where I actually don't even need that money, because I actually have everything that I have around me. It's taught me this gratitude that I don't even need this lump sum of money that I wouldn't know what to do with even if I got it.
Yeah.
So it teaches you character going the slow route, rather than you just fast forwarding and getting that quick buck.
Yep.
That instant high, that Instagram high.
Yeah.
So
what we're really getting into now is the power of process.
Yeah.
My guy TD Jakes once said that if he wanted to ruin a person's life instantly, he would just give them everything that he has,
For real.
without any process, and
real.
they would not be able to handle it. Because they have not gone through anything to make them more resilient, like you said, to teach them those lessons. I spent a lot of time with that at the beginning of this year. One of my prayers at the beginning of the year, literally like January 1st, was, okay, God, you spent the last however many years telling me you have all these things for me. I believe I am in a position now where I can handle them. So begin to pour them out to me. Well, he did. And it was very quickly after he did, I began to pray, thank you for not giving this to me before, because I would have screwed it up.
Yeah.
And I am just a big proponent of a process now, because I understand that it prepares you for what God has for you. So oftentimes we pray to him for things, And he answers and he's like, I have no issue giving you that, but I'm not wasteful. I'm not going to pour this out for half of it to end up on the ground. So let me expand you so you have the capacity to hold what you're asking me for, which is often uncomfortable.
Yeah.
To stretch you out like that is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. I wrote a note in my phone some time ago that said, I believe it said, God is not a substitute teacher. He does not assign busy work. Everything that God gives you is for a reason.
Yeah.
And that reason is leading towards your purpose or your promise or whatever the case is. So even the assignments that don't seem necessarily like they're leading towards anything, they are.
Yeah.
He doesn't waste his time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just have to get to the point to where we can appreciate whatever process he has us in, go through it with grace and understanding that he is in control. Even if I don't understand the process that I am in, he knows.
Yeah.
His thoughts are above our thoughts, ways above our ways.
Yeah.
And we just have to trust and believe in him enough to withstand that process.
Thoughts coming into my head. God knows us. He knows us, like you just said.
Yep.
Right? He sees us.
Mm-hmm.
He sees us and actually discerns what happens in our lives because he knows what's best, what's not. He can differentiate the differences between all of our senses, not just our sight, but what we need and what we need to be nurtured in and what we're lacking. He knows all of that. He fully understands us. Now, that's the internal. Now, the external for us to understand and see God is the different story because we don't know all of what God is capable of. We don't know everything about God. We're not supposed to.
Yep.
You know, and that's also the difference between spirit and science, faith and
logic or knowledge, any of that
because
stuff.
you know, that's part of the argument where they're like, well, how would you know? I was like, I don't need to know everything.
Exactly.
I don't need to use 100% of my brain. We use only what, 11%? Something small like that. I'm fine with that. I don't need to be, that's one thing I don't need to necessarily like reach even 50%.
Yeah.
You know, like there's certain things that are left a mystery for us because that's part of what our faith and our hope is. That's where we find our connection in our relationship with God because we're not supposed to know everything. Is if we're blind and we're walking through this space and we're like this, essentially, like I can kind of see through my fingers and like through my peripherals and stuff, but like for me to actually see where I'm going straight, I have to trust in God to see like he knows where I'm supposed to step.
Yep.
You know, like if you're a blind person, you have either like a guide dog or the
stick.
Is it called a stick?
I'm
is
not
that
sure.
politically correct term for that?
I'm not
It's
sure.
a stick. Well, you have a guider, and that's what God is. And so if I could just see, right? I have 20/20 vision. I don't need a stick.
Yeah.
And so where's my faith in God if I can see everything?
What would you need him for if that was the case?
Exactly. If I could do everything myself, if everything that I wanted came to me when I asked for it, if I had that much power, I wouldn't need God.
Absolutely.
So for us to be able to see God, we need to understand the only thing we need to understand and see in God is how he loves. How he loves, because even as a parent, how you love is also discipline. How you love is unconditional. How you love is exactly as you are. I'm going to do my best to support you in that.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you ever need to question how much he loves you, he sent his son to die for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It gets no more love than that.
Yeah. And even if that's, because sometimes that's not tangible enough for some people to pick up on. If you need to see how much God loves you, realize where you are in your life today, and then think about all the things that was trying to kill you. All these things. Like I had a car accident that flipped over like 4 times when I was in 6th grade. I could have died. Had a seatbelt on, but I still could have died. All these things that happened to my life that were traumatic, something else could have happened, and I was protected.
Yeah.
You know, if you are doubting how much God loves you, look back on all the things that you thought was going to take you out and realize today you're still breathing.
Yep.
You know?
His mercy and kindness endures
Absolutely.
forever. The fact that you're sitting here breathing
Absolutely.
is enough. Yeah. What you were talking about with the you're covering your eyes and stuff. The Bible literally says the faith coming by hearing, not seeing.
Yeah.
So you have to hear God. So through sermons, through reading your Bible, through his word, whatever the case is, you have to hear his voice and you have to learn that discernment. And that kind of goes into the discernment aspect of it, goes into the fact that we are spirits. And I think we were talking about this in one of the episodes, like how can you actually discern in your spirit? Like, what does that mean? Literally, we are spirits.
Absolutely.
You know, we have a body, we live in a body, we have a soul, but we are spirits, and that spirit literally comes from God. It's part of God. He breathed it into us in Genesis. So we have a part of him in us, and that's how we communicate. It's like our walkie-talkie on this side.
Yep.
The walkie-talkie inside of us speaks to the walkie-talkie up there in heaven. So you have to learn how to click that little button.
Yep.
But you got to let it go so you can hear what
Right,
he's
exactly.
saying too. Yeah. Can't believe I just compared the spirit of God to
I
walkie-talkie.
mean, it hit
But
somebody.
yeah. Just make it simple for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, because even when I was looking through the definition of discernment, right, it said to distinguish something with difficulty by sight or other senses. In the sense of being seen, right? You're using your sight. But I love how it said by other senses, because sometimes spirit is, I need to be careful how I word this, but it's not based off of feelings, but it concerns your feelings. Because if you didn't feel the spirit, or even your conscious trying to tell you things, that I feel like that's like the seventh sense, right? There's 6 senses.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be like the seventh sense, where like you're feeling that spirit. And that's what caused you to move or be still, or it's that tumbling in your stomach when you're like, oh, this is kind of weird. And that's kind of what helps us make decisions sometimes.
Yep.
And also understanding what to do when we feel that.
Yep.
So could we talk about that in spirit as well? Like how to discern what your spirit is and actually understand what that means to you.
Yeah. And I think we touched on it a little bit on one of the last episodes too, but that is literally something that takes time. You can't just turn that on one day when you wake up and decide that you want to learn to use your spirit and to talk to God. You have to cultivate a relationship with God to get to that point.
Yeah.
And you were talking about before, Tim Ross was saying how intimacy takes time.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with God. So when we think of intimacy, we think of it as like an intimate relationship with a lover or something like that. But intimacy just means I know you. I understand you. I take the time to learn you. That could be a friend. That could be family. You could be intimate. And it's the same thing with God. God wants that intimate time, and you have to spend that time with him to get to the point where you can clearly hear his voice.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us that, his sheep knows his voice. So again, whether that's through your worship time, whether that's through going to service, whether that's through reading the Bible, through fellowship, like whatever it is, you have to get to a point to where you can discern and clearly hear his voice amongst all the other voices. Because it's important to know that other voices are not going to go away.
Yeah.
If anything, they're going to get louder. So you just have to learn how to pick out his voice.
Yeah.
You know what I think about when I used to be in the grocery store with my mom when I was very little? And sometimes I wouldn't be paying attention, or I'd be looking at toys or something, and I look up and she'd be gone, and I didn't know where she was.
End of the world.
Yeah. And all I would have to do was yell out. And even with all the voices in the store, when my mother hears my voice, she knows exactly who I am.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the relationship with God. You have to get to a point to where when you hear him speak, you can clearly know that's God.
Yeah.
I don't know what all these other voices are, but I know his voice.
Yeah.
And also know that he knows your voice as well. Yeah.
I was reading Ephesians. I don't know exactly which. It was like Ephesians 2. But Paul was writing a letter saying that I pray that you get the spirit of wisdom and revelation so that you and God come real tight. He didn't say those words, but that's how I translate it.
Okay.
But basically, I pray that you get wisdom and revelation for you to understand, so you and God could get really close so that you guys can know each other, because he already knows you, but do you know God?
Yeah.
So having that wisdom and revelation is something that we can always pray for ourselves if we feel like we're not that close to God. Be like, God, download your wisdom into me. Download sound understanding.
Yeah.
Download my vision so that my eyes can be opened.
Yeah.
And enlighten my heart so that I can know you better, because I want to know you. I'm seeking you.
Yep.
And I'm asking to see you clearly, because right now my vision's a little blurry. Right. So that's always somewhere that we can strengthen our prayer life too, where we, when you think about these things that you're lacking or that you want to get stronger in, you can always just call on God and be like, hey, can you help me with this?
Yeah.
I always say, like, when I'm struggling with something, I say, Holy Spirit, I need your help really quick. I just, like, literally that's it. I just, like, I need your help really quick. Holy Spirit, come and, like, help me out with this. And then I start to feel, one, I feel peace. And then also, two, I start to feel, it's such a weird sensation to explain, but, like, I feel the sense of direction where I'm like, okay, now I know what decision I need to make, you know?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Paul, you ever heard the story of, a lot of people refer to it as the road to Damascus, when he was blinded, literally, so he could see.
Yeah.
It's like contradictory.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. Sometimes your eyes have to be shut so you can actually see, which is weird to think about.
Yeah. And even if we feel like we're able to see, sometimes it's like, well, what am I missing? You know, if you feel like you're in a place where you're like, well, I don't feel like I'm lost. I feel like I can see everything clearly.
Yeah.
Then you can also pray, like, show me certain things that I am missing right now. Cause there's always little corners that we can't see, right? Like if your eyes are focused on one point, there's certain things behind you or on the sides of you that you can't really see. So
Yeah.
just praying for God to expand your vision as well.
That made me think of a scripture. Can you entertain the people while I look for a scripture real quick?
You can never have too much connection. So whenever you feel like you're chasing the numbers, think about how you can connect more, because people are people. Behind the numbers are actual people. So just be careful about what you're putting out into the world, because you are impacting somebody, you are affecting somebody, and what you have to offer has a lot of value for people.
That's beautiful. Yeah, so the scripture I was thinking about was Ephesians 1:18, so it's still in Ephesians.
Okay.
And it's also Paul, and he is saying the eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that ye may know what is the hope of his calling and what the riches of the glory of his inheritance.
That's the same scripture. I just translated
different
it.
translation.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about when
That's
you were
the
saying.
same
I was
one.
like, that sounds familiar. But yeah, the hope. I like where it says the eyes of your understanding being enlightened. So literally, what you're seeing, he wants it to be accurate with what it actually is. That's where that enlightenment comes in. You got something?
No, were you going to say?
No,
Finish. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I forgot what I was
So
going.
your description was the eyes of understanding?
Yeah, it says the eyes of your understanding being enlightened.
Okay, so mine was the eyes of your heart be enlightened. And I just thought that was an awesome way to put that, because things that you feel in your heart are what you are at your deepest core.
That's what you're actually seeing.
Yeah, that's also what the things that people aren't seeing about you.
Yep.
So it's like, even at your deepest core, when you're like, dang, I'm putting on this smile for the world, and then I feel small or dark on the inside, whatever that is, it's like God is saying to you, let me touch the darkest parts of you so that those can have some light, so that you can change your perspective of what hope is. Let me give you a new hope, because the things that are dark, if they're dark for a long time, they're used to that. And then when you have light, sometimes it's uncomfortable, because you're like, I'd rather just be dark, because now I can see everything. But it's like, well, let me enlighten that so you can wake up to this hope that God has planted in you from the day that he knew about you.
Yep.
And that's also that God is knowing you as well. The same knowing that he has, that he sees you. He has predestined you for something way bigger. So he just wants you to wake up and open your heart to that.
Yeah. Wow.
Touching.
So let's get into some practicals here.
Okay. I love practicals.
All right. So here's number one. How can we make sure others around us feel seen?
Ooh. One, we have to observe. We can't just come in with the dust and just be like, whoa, you need this,
Yep.
right?
Back to our observance.
Yeah, our animal analogy.
Exactly.
You have to watch and take note.
Yep.
Take note, meaning you're not stepping in to manipulate quite yet.
You can't go in and tell the bear, don't eat that.
Right. Because maybe that's his favorite berry.
Yeah, and maybe the bear hits you and scratch at your face.
Yes, that as
So
well.
stay away.
So the first practical is observe.
Yes.
Take notes. Notice patterns. Notice different reactions. If you see somebody who's like smiling and they're like, when somebody turns away, their smile like disappears. That's something to take note of.
Yep.
You know, the first step is observe.
The next step I'm going to say is back to what we were talking about earlier, the inquiry part of it.
Ooh, ask questions.
Questions
Yes.
to get to know another person.
Yes.
Just just ask them. And if they don't want to answer the question, they will tell you that. They will say, you know, I'm not comfortable answering that, or I don't want to get into that. But ask questions. Ask them with the right heart, with the right intent behind the words that you're saying, with the right tone. But definitely ask questions to get to know the other person.
You have to be very particular in the tone. I like that you said tone.
Yeah.
Because good intentions don't always come out as good intentions if somebody's in a rocky place already.
Yep.
So what you have to understand the person first. By you observing, you understand how they might respond. And then 2, that postures you in a way where you're able to ask the questions that they need, not that you need answers to, but that will help them develop and ground dig for themselves as well.
Yeah. So, and don't go in with right along with it, don't go in with a certain like list of questions and feel like you have to stay with that. Like if you ask one question and the conversation goes one way, follow the conversation. Don't try to force certain things. Yeah.
Take what they're giving you.
Exactly. So here's another one. For yourself, for internal reflection. At what point are you trying too hard to be seen? What are some markers that you can tell yourself, I'm trying way too hard to get people to see me right now?
When you're feeling burnt out and you start to question your worth.
Yes.
The moment you start to question your worth, it's like, is this good enough? Was that right? Did I say something wrong? You start to question your worth because the engagement is not there.
Yeah.
Whether that's on social media or you're going to your community and nobody's like responding to you, or you go to your best friend and they're like kind of being cold shouldered to you. The moment that you start to question your worth based off of reaction is when you're not aligning. You're not aligning, because no matter what any outside circumstance gives you after you do your certain thing, it shouldn't shake you.
Yeah.
You know, even with us doing our podcast, we're staying true. We're studying the word. It's actually impacting my life and my walk throughout my week.
Yeah.
So it's like, no matter what we put out, I might have to check myself to be like, okay, does that come from the right source? But I don't ever study the numbers.
Yeah.
I actually can't look at the numbers because I know that becomes a cycle for me where I'm like, you know what, let me just stay true to what I feel and let's put it out there.
Yep.
Which is why I'm glad I'm not running social media, because I'm like,
shout out Briante.
Right. Thank you for posting our stuff, because I'm not trying to do it. But yeah, do not question your worth, and do not attach your worth to a response of what you're putting out.
Boom. I'm going to follow that up by saying another way that you can know that you're doing a bit too much is when you start to justify actions that go directly against your morals and beliefs.
Ooh,
when you start to find reasons to do them, and you're convincing yourself that it's okay to keep doing it.
Yes.
Oh, just because, this still gives God the glory a bit, kind of in this way, a little bit if you squint your eyes and turn the lights down. Too much. You're doing too much.
Stay there for a second.
Okay.
Temptation. That's what the devil does. That's the scheme.
Yep.
You have to notice that that's a scheme. That's a trick. Tricks are for kids.
Yeah. Shout out Pastor Stephen Furtick.
Last week's service. I had a thought. This was yesterday, actually. So, say you have an itch, right? It's winter, so your skin be dry. My skin be dry sometimes. I have to make sure I moisturize. But anyways, so say you have an itch, and you have an itch that just won't go away.
Yeah.
And you're like, keep itching, right? I have a skin condition where it's called dermatographia. If anybody else has dermatographia, I feel seen. You feel seen. We're the same. So basically, anytime my skin gets scratched, whether it's like by myself or like I run into something, my skin will pop up. It welts up. And that's something I've had since I was like a kid. But sometimes if I have like a nervous reaction, I'll like just scratch.
Yeah.
And then I don't realize I'm scratching until I look at my skin and I'm like, oh, it's welted right now.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine the devil's schemes is like you have an itch on your body. What does it mean to deny your flesh? Is when you have an itch and it keeps itching and you want to just scratch it, knowing that, hey, my skin is maybe starting to bleed right now. I need to stop scratching.
Yeah.
You have every power in your body to not scratch that itch. And that's the same thing with our spirit, because we have every power in our body not to go through with our temptations.
Yeah.
And we have every power to fight it off by either just calling on the Holy Spirit or just being like, I'm not going to even entertain this right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we can take that even a little bit deeper with a little more practical, because 2 ways that he will do that to get you to keep scratching is, number one, he'll make it numb.
Yeah.
So you can't even feel the impact of it anymore. The other way is he will distract you. He'll keep your eyes up here even though you're scratching down here. So just look out for those two
Yeah.
things.
And he'll tell you things like you said, it's like, oh, you could just do it this one time. Like
Yeah.
God said it's okay if you like stretch the truth a little, like you still got a little room. And it's
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah.
Just stand firm because the devil got some powerful schemes because he know you too. The devil knows you too.
Yeah.
The devil observes you. The devil takes notes on you. He sees your patterns and he knows your thought process. Well, he doesn't know your thoughts. He hears the words that come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
So you have the devil watching you like those cameramen who are watching the animals. The devil's watching you just like that, but you also have a God
Yep.
who not only knows you, but made you.
Yeah.
So
The
he's like,
manufacturer.
the manufacturer. So he's like, no, this one that I got right here is the finest.
Yep.
And can withhold anything, like
Yeah.
to go through anything and still stand strong. So just be aware that the devil is watching at all times.
Yes.
Do not give in.
No.
Do not scratch. Get some lotion.
Do that.
Yes.
Aloe vera.
Yes.
All right. So the last little idea I wanted to kind of chit chat about.
Okay.
As far as this goes, sometimes being seen too much can lead to overexposure, which then compromises your privacy as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can get to the point where you don't even have private moments anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I hear celebrities a lot of the time talk about, they say stuff like, oh man, I wish I could just go to a grocery store
I know.
by myself and walk around and just pick out my groceries. Like they can't even do that anymore.
Is it weird that I used to feel bad for Michael Jackson when I was like in 5th grade? Because I'm like, he just wants to go to the grocery store, get an apple. He
Yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah. So it's important to know when you're asking to be seen a lot, toe that line between time with yourself and your private moments. There are some moments that are private that everybody does not need to see.
Yeah.
You don't always need to have the camera on you.
Yes.
Allowing people into that space, because once they're in, they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's going to be hard to get them out and get that privacy back.
Yeah.
So just remember that.
It's one thing to be vulnerable and let that vulnerability show because you're helping other people through their own struggles, but you don't, is understanding, knowing how to discern what are the right moments, because there are certain things that you need to leave for yourself to go through on your own, to find that maturity first, to then be able to present it to the world. Because if I'm going, certain things you can talk as you're going through them, but certain things you need to get through first in order to speak from a full circle.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yes.
I got nothing to add to that. Boom.
This next section is called Questions from the Audience, where we have some questions that we want to answer that you guys want to be answered.
Yeah.
Okay, so we actually have 5 questions for you guys.
Cacao Hughes was on it.
So the first one is, what are 2 questions that you ask when trying to get to know someone better?
Don't point over here.
No, I was
like,
about to list them.
Okay.
You want to go?
He said, that's what I saw. No, you got it.
Okay.
I'm
I
still
kind of want to know both sides. Number one, I want to know what your pet peeves are. What are the things that tick you off? And then on the other side, I want to know what your purpose and passion in life is. Those are kind of 2 of the biggest things for me.
That's good. I would say, I mean, if we're like 3 conversations in, maybe I'll be like, what has hurt you in the past? I don't know if that's like an opening question, but essentially wanting to know like what they've gone through so I can kind of see into their eyes a little bit. Not in a sense of like being judgmental, but in a sense of understanding where they've been, so if I could step into their shoes a little bit. The second question I would ask is, what do you do when nobody's watching? Like, what is your favorite pastime when nobody's watching? Like, who are you at your truest self when you feel like you're corny, but you actually enjoy it? Like, what are those things that you enjoy doing? Because I want to do them with you.
All right. The second question is, tell us about a time when you felt the most seen.
Can you say that one more time? You got to keep the mic in front.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Tell me about a time when you have felt the most seen.
Wow.
I have two, and they're opposite. They're contrasting. time I felt the most seen on a superficial point was like my second to last year in LA because I was booking the most, and I felt like I was thriving. Everybody's like, wow, Kiana, like you did this audition or you did this video and this commercial and stuff like that. Like, you know, people were messaging me and that was like boosting my head up, my ego.
Yeah.
Then the next year after was COVID, and then it was like complete opposite, like ground zero. That was also the time when I felt most seen internally because that's when I committed my life to God, and that's when I realized who I was as a person rather than who I am as, or who I was as a human rather than who I am as this worldly person.
Right.
I felt understanding and seen of who I actually was.
I feel
Feel that?
you got it?
Sure.
Yeah, I would say mine's sort of similar. The time I felt the most seen was the time I was most alone. I was isolated in a 10 by 10 room in my mother's house at the worst point of my life, spending hours and hours a day lying in the bed, sitting in a chair. And that's when I started to ask the question, who is this person named Jesus? And that was when I felt the most seen, is when I started to get to know him and understand his love for me. I was like, oh, he sees me. He sees every part of me.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't just see the outward appearance. He doesn't just see what I tell him. He can see even the parts of me that I won't speak out loud. Yeah.
It's interesting that when we're in a season of isolation, that's when we get to know Jesus the best.
Mm-hmm. He puts us there on purpose.
He puts us in that season of isolation, of separation, because he's like, wow, now that you have no distractions, let's get to know each other really quick.
Yeah.
But it takes that moment of humility when you're like, who is God? Like you said, you're like, who is this Jesus guy?
Yeah.
And me, same with me, where I was like, okay, God, I feel like God's been calling me, but like, let me actually go and see what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
You know, it takes that moment to feel seen.
He's like, now that I have your attention.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So in addition to being in a season of isolation, what are other reasons someone might not feel seen?
They're surrounded by the wrong people. They're not aligned with the people that they're around, whether they have different morals or different paths that they're walking in. You even start to see yourself, like, even when I started to meet you guys, I started to feel myself again because I'm like, wow, I can actually be vulnerable and also like silly and be serious and have deep conversations. And like, that's when I really felt like I could be seen. So I think it really takes being around the right people.
Yeah. Can you say that one more time, Tay?
So in addition to being in a season of isolation, what are other causes for someone not feeling seen?
Not feeling seen. Yeah. It kind of goes right along with the fact that you're not around the right people. But I think a big part of it is people, you go through life in like a POV, it's a point of view, it's just you. And sometimes when you're going through things, it feels like you're the only one experiencing it. And we talked about this before, but it's almost like I can't even articulate to you how I'm really feeling.
Yeah.
So how could you possibly actually see me? I can't even tell you. So how could you? That's where discernment comes in. So I think one big part why people feel unseen is just the fact that they don't feel like people can actually fully understand what they're going through. So shared experiences is a big part of coming out of things, often because people start to say, oh my God, you can actually see a little bit of what I'm going through or what I've been trying to say. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, so do you guys have any triggers from a season of your life when you were vulnerable but still weren't seen?
Triggers? Yeah. Do you want to go first on that one?
I'm trying to think here. I'm sure I do. I have a bunch.
I have one I'm not really proud to share, but back when I was in like a very toxic relationship, I would try to express my feelings, and it was a very narcissistic approach of manipulation where it would come back to me and be like, no, you don't feel that way. because this is what happened. And this is why I did this to you, because you made me feel this way. Knowing you can't make somebody feel a certain way. They have responsibility over their own actions. But eventually having that connection over and over and over again made me like silence my voice and my feelings, because I'm like, well, what's the point of me sharing what I'm feeling if you're just going to turn around and tell me I'm not feeling that? And it made me start to second guess, am I psycho? I don't feel these things? You know, like it's a type of brainwashing, but that's a trigger that I had. So now, I mean, I've grown and healed a lot from that, but there are certain things that trigger me where it's like, when I am sharing my feelings, I have to go through a process of validating myself to be like, no, these are actually what you're feeling, which is why I journal a lot, because I'm like, this is what I'm feeling. I'm validated. Jesus validates me because he knows me to my core, and then I go and present it. So no matter how somebody responds or reacts to it, I'm like, well, I still know, and I still, understand how I'm feeling. So I need to learn how to deal through these things. So hope that helps somebody, because I didn't want to share that one.
Yeah. I have a real tangible trigger. Back in 2020, when I first had one of the scariest health moments of my life, it was in a situation where I was alone in my apartment, and things began to happen with my body that I had never experienced. So I had no context to it. I had no reference points in my life to compare it to, and I was completely alone in there. And I was trying to deal with it. And then it kind of just got to a point where I was like, okay, I got to call somebody for help. And there was a bevy of, there were various symptoms going on in my body. So even today, if I feel any one of those specific symptoms, oftentimes my mind will go back to that night, and I'll start to ask myself, is something about to happen?
Yeah.
And it's that feeling of impending doom. Like something is going to happen at some point, just because of that one symptom that I'm feeling. So I had to really work through some of those things in therapy, just saying that, hey, just because of an isolated symptom, that doesn't mean that something catastrophic is going to happen. Yeah. And then really get to a place in God where it's like, even if something does happen, God's still God. Yeah. He's still going to be there with you.
Okay. Our last question comes from Julian C. Davis. What does he have to ask?
He wants to know, what is an affirmation someone can use if they do not feel seen?
I love affirmations. I love them. An affirmation that you can use when you don't feel seen is, I trust in the Lord, and I know that his steps for me are valid for where he wants me to go. I am worthy of, I am worthy of the value that God has placed into me, and the thoughts that I have are straight from him. I have one more, but I forgot it.
Oh, you forgot?
I'm thinking of it as I'm freestyling it right now. But give me one.
Let's see. Keep it simple. The person who can see the best can see me. God.
Oh, I use this one all the time. It's not really an affirmation, but it's a statement that I always use. Whenever I feel like somebody's judging me or they're misjudging me, I always say, you don't know my life. And that clears my mind of any opinion that they have in their minds. Because I'm like, you don't know my life. You don't know what I'm capable of. You don't know what I've been through to get here. You don't know where I'm going. In the friendliest way. Like, I use it with my family a lot. And they're like, but we do know you, Kiana. I was like, you don't know my life, though. But anytime that I feel like I'm being misunderstood, I say that. And that's our questions. Okay. The last segment of our show is called SOS, Subject on the Spot. Season 2. This is Subject on the Spot. So we'll say out a random subject, and you can have a 1-minute sermon on it.
Yep. Let's just recap some of these subjects we've gone over in the last few weeks. We did
dog walking.
Dog walking. It's as easy as riding a bike.
High heels and flats.
High heels and flats. And what was the other one you gave me?
Tires.
Oh no, yeah, we did
Tires.
tires, and then we did board games. Because
Board
remember I
games.
talked about the chessboard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, those are pretty strong though.
Yeah. So let's see what we got today. Who's going first?
Banana peel.
I guess I'm going first.
It just came to my brain, so it came out.
Banana peel.
Banana peel.
My goodness gracious.
We use banana peel? There's no way. That's so random. Did we? No, we didn't.
Banana peel.
Because we only had 6 topics so far, and that was like all 6.
That's what I was supposed to figure out.
That's up to interpretation. You can't explain it. You just say the subject.
All right, man.
Banana peel it is. Who has the timer?
Who's at the timer? Banana
So
peel.
you got stalling time. I expect another 60 minutes or 60 seconds for me to prepare. So now that he's thinking about it.
Everything will preach. That's what me
3,
and my mom
2, 1. Here we go. Banana peel.
So in life, relating this to what we're talking about today, a banana is really tasty. It's on the inside. It has a lot of nutrients. But the banana peel tells you a lot about what's on the inside of it. You have to pay attention to the color of the banana peel, because if it's the right color, then you know it's time to eat it. But sometimes it's not the right time to eat it, and you got to leave it on the counter for a while. So you, as a banana, you want to make sure that you stay in that cocoon and you up your nutrients and up your game so that when you come out, you taste right to the world. You don't want to come out too soon, be too bitter. You don't want to come out too late and be too mushy and brown. You want to come out just at the right time. So you have to be able to use discernment about the color of the banana to know when to open up the banana. And after you open that banana, oh, I thought it was over.
What happens
After you open the banana, then you eat it.
Then you eat it deep.
I thought the timer was off because I looked up and she wasn't holding it.
I know. We always get a bell.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Thanks.
You do have that does take discernment.
It does.
Speaking of, how do you discern your bananas? Because I like my bananas yellow with a little bit of freckles.
I don't pick bananas.
Huh?
So I don't know.
We'll pick some for you. Instacart? Oh, okay.
And when I eat them, I don't eat them a lot. So I just don't have to.
You're not a green banana, though.
I don't think so.
Some people like brown bananas, like banana bread worthy bananas.
Okay. The only time I used to eat
Those
banana,
are good. They are sweet.
The only time I used to eat bananas was banana pudding. My grandmother.
Pudding. No G.
Nah.
Pudding.
We don't say pudding.
I don't think I ever say pudding either.
Yeah,
Pudding.
it's pudding.
Banana pudding.
Yeah.
Bananas with freckles. They are. It's if they have bruises on them. Like if I eat it and I bite into a mush, then we're not well. I love bananas. I could have a banana a day and be fine. In a smoothie, yeah. What? Am I the only banana eater here? You love bananas? You like bananas?
When they show up in front of me, I
Why'd y'all
eat them.
have
I don't
ba-
really know.
Well, really? Bananas are a staple in my life. I don't like banana flavor anything else though. Like banana like Laffy Taffies or like lollipops or nerds, like don't do that. Oh, the little ones? I've never had those. They're like little toe bananas. Baby toe. We're gonna have a banana segment. We need mics on the audience.
Yeah,
for
when
real.
do we just
We need mics on the
go on a
audience.
banana tangent? Let's get back to work. But
This doesn't work.
I got to give you a
5,
I got to give you something.
4, 3,
Oh, I'm about to throw a heavy hitter at you.
1.
Gum under a table.
Ooh.
You were prepared to say that regardless of what I
Yeah,
said.
I was ready. Okay. We always start with like sometimes in life.
Yeah.
In a world. Okay, gum under the table. So when you have a piece of gum, it goes through a process where you take it out of the little container, the box, you unwrap it, and then you put it in your mouth, and it's just beautiful. You have great flavor. Sometimes it's a little sweet. Sometimes you might have a little cinnamon. It has a little spice to it, but it lasts for however long that it lasts. And then when it's time to get rid of it, where you dispose it tells what type of person that you are. If you put it in the paper, you are very well put together. And you put that in the trash, a little gum wrapped, paper wrapped gum, and you put it in the trash, you are a pristine person. We support you. Protect them at all costs. Now, if you're the type of person that throws it out of the car in the window and hope it land in the grass, you are littering. That does count as littering, and you are not really helping the world. Now, if you put it under the table, now you are just trifling. Do not put gum under the table. Do not be a gum under the table person, because you're just setting up a bad life for the people who come after you because they have to put their knee on a wet piece of gum.
That's nasty.
What the?
Banana peels and wet gum.
That's gross.
Welcome to the Christ Culture Podcast.
Woo, yeah. That was tough.
Yeah.
We did it though.
Season 2, episode 4.
4.
Done.
Power of being seen.
Being seen.
Peace out, y'all. You guys, if you like our content, please let us know by liking and subscribing. Also, please leave us some comments in the comment section.
Yeah, go subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, and YouTube, which I said already.
Yes, all those
still
things.
do it.
Still do that.
Yep.
And also, if you'd like to activate your faith a little bit stronger, we got a community group for y'all on Facebook. And in that Facebook group, this is what we'll be doing.
Yeah, it's going to be all of our crew members. You're going to hear devotionals, worship songs. You're going to hear testimonies. Go in there and connect with the community.
Yes, most importantly, we got community, so you never feel like you're alone. That's it. We love you guys. We'll see you next episode.